Okay. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing well, Douglas. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. You're actually a return guest. You were on the podcast how long ago? At least a month, right? Was that about a month
I
ago?
think it's been about a month, yes, but now I feel like I've made it to the big time now on the television screen.
On the VE show, as we call it, video edition.
Yes.
Yes, well, congratulations. You have graduated, and we're happy to have you here. When you were on the podcast, we talked about your book, Love Dad. I think you have it there. You want to hold it up?
I do, yes, yep.
Okay. And briefly, just tell us what that was, what happened.
Yeah, this is a book that I wrote after some extraordinary things began to happen after my dad passed in 2011, things that ended up convincing me without a doubt that life in some form survives death and continues.
As I remember, you mentioned something that the key for you, you had a, was it the same psychic that contacted you initially that you had come to your house, or was it a different one?
It was a different one. The one that contacted my family first was not a professional. She was someone who just sort of did it for fun as sort of a hobby. The one that came to our house calls herself a professional evidential medium.
Okay. And your test for her was something in reference to your hair, correct?
That's right. That's right. I gave her a code word. I told my dad that if this was real, I wanted her to mention my hair, and of course, she sure did.
And you gave her no help at all, right?
No, no. I was incredibly careful about all of that. I was very skeptical, open-minded, but skeptical, requiring. I needed a lot of proof before I was going to believe this stuff, and certainly before I was going to write a book about it, I was going to have to be completely convinced, and I definitely was.
How long ago was all of this? When did your father pass away?
He passed in 2011, so 10 years
So it's
now.
been 10 years. Okay.
And then I've been making a documentary and investigating this for the past 10 years, pretty much.
Oh, is the film out?
Not yet. The Netflix series Surviving Death sort of came along while I was making my documentary, and I'm some of my story is featured in that. But now that that's out, I think I might pick the documentary back up again.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll look forward to that. I would suspect that before your father passed away and all of this happened, if somebody had told you the same story that you just wrote, you probably wouldn't have believed it. Am I right to assume that?
Yes, that's an accurate assumption. Not that I wouldn't give it a chance. That's the difference between, in my mind, the difference between skepticism and debunking. Some people have their minds completely made up about this, and no amount of information is going to alter their stance. Though I am skeptical and I need proof before I'm going to believe something, I do allow that proof to come in, and I do take a look at it. So yes, I would have taken a lot of convincing, and I hope that this book will do that for people who are perhaps on the skeptical end of the spectrum. They'll see that the lengths that I went to before I would believe this myself.
My father's been gone for a long time. But when he first died, and I think I asked you this in the podcast, I would dream about him all the time. He would come into my dreams regularly. The longer it's been, the less I dream about him. Now, maybe once every couple of months, he'll pop into my dream somewhere, but he's always hard to find. He's always in a mist. I can't get to him. He's in a crowd. There's something blocking me from getting to him. Or if he happens to be right there in the dream, when I speak, he doesn't hear me. Like there's a piece of glass or something between us. There's always some obstacle, and I've told people about that, and they said, oh, yeah, that's because you're on this side still, and he's on the other side. So it symbolizes itself in the dream. Makes sense, but
That makes sense to me,
yeah.
yeah, and I have heard that a lot, and it also makes some sense to me that the dreams might might tail off eventually, and they have for me as well. When my dad first passed, it felt like I was dreaming about him, these extraordinary dreams, almost nightly. And now it's it's certainly diminished in frequency. But now, having come to the belief that I have that people truly do survive death and go on, it makes sense to me that after my dad knows that we're okay now, and I've said to him, it's okay, Dad. You don't have to focus so much here now. Do your thing. I'm sure he's got stuff going on over there, and that's what I imagine might happen after a period of time.
Yeah, he might have a Netflix deal.
Right.
Absolutely. He could be busy right now.
That's right.
Let's just do a hard sort of segue into Hamilton. I see on your piano there, it says Life at Hamilton.
Oh, yes.
And,
yes.
And you've got a book. Okay. So you weren't actually in the play, though, right? You were a bartender. Where was Hamilton being presented? Where was it?
It opened. Its initial run was at the Public Theater downtown in New York City. The Broadway run, which is the one that the world is now familiar with, is at the Richard Rodgers Theater on 46th Street on Broadway.
Okay, so this is not a touring show, right?
It has some tours out there now. It's such a successful show that I think we have 3 separate tours. Not at the moment because of COVID, but at one time there were 3 separate tours, as well as sit-down productions in Chicago and San Francisco, and now there's one in Australia and the West End as well.
So you were a bartender at the Broadway production in New York City?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
How did you get that job?
That is a job I took. I'm an actor as well, as most people in the service industry in Manhattan are. And I moved to New York to be an actor, assuming that my career was absolutely going to take off. But as most artists do, you take a day job to help pay the big city rent. And so this job opened up, came along for bartending at a Broadway theater. And I thought that was the perfect job to have for just 3 months or so until the acting career, came to the fruition that I was certain it was going to come to. And then I blinked and 15 years later, I'm still behind that bar. Although I would not change a thing about that. It's been an absolutely extraordinary journey.
So the book tells about what? Anecdotes or people that you met at the bar? Or I'm sure you met some interesting people.
I did. I've met some really people that are. I would have spontaneously combusted. I think if I told my 15-year-old self some of the people that I was going to meet someday. The book is about my experience mostly through that first year. Hamilton was this juggernaut. It took over Broadway and entered the sort of the mainstream zeitgeist in a way that maybe no Broadway show ever had before. It transcended Broadway and just became this pop culture phenomenon. And so that first year was just an amazing ride. And that's what the book is, sort of my experience of being up close to that. Some of it, because I'd wanted to be an actor. The book is also about that, the little bit of the heartbreak. Some of it was a little painful to be this close to people who were living out my childhood dream on a daily basis. But then I came to really just sort of be in the moment and appreciate what it was that I was seeing on a daily basis. And so a lot of the book are stories about what I was seeing there in the lobby every day.
Did you audition to be in Hamilton?
No, I'm not a singer or a dancer. I'm a straight actor. I do mostly just comedic plays. I can sing, Douglas, but not in a way that is not painful for the listener. So I've never been in a Broadway musical.
Can you give a 1-minute synopsis of what the story is about Hamilton?
Yeah, Hamilton is about the founding of America. It's the story of the founding, but it's told through hip hop style of music. So it's a really interesting juxtaposition. You have the founding fathers being portrayed, and of course, all of the founding fathers were older white gentlemen, and this is being portrayed by a modern day America. So it's a very diverse cast telling us this story in this fantastic hip hop style.
Because I haven't seen it, and I didn't know exactly what the story was about. All right, that's interesting. So you were talking that this play has taken off to be much more than a play. It's sort of a political statement, a social statement of what's going on today. Could you equate that to any other production that's come along, like maybe Hair back in the 60s? Is there some similarity there?
There might be some. Yeah, I mean, Hair is a bit, before my time, but it's similar in nature, in its in that it had social awareness. It was about the goings on of the day. And though Hamilton is obviously about what was happening in the 1700s, it certainly resonates today with what's going on.
Is Cats still the longest running Broadway show?
I think, is it Cats, or it might be Phantom of the Opera at this point, and The Lion King is up there as well now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That just reminds me of that funny SNL spoof that they did on Cats. I don't know if you ever saw it, but like they just showed the backstage at Cats, and the actors were so burned out after doing 45,000 productions of this show or something. It was funny.
Yeah, I cannot imagine doing. I've done the longest I've ever been in a play for as an actor has been 3 months. Doing a show for years, the way some of those people have who are in Cats or Phantom, I cannot imagine what that must be like.
So let's talk a little bit more about your acting. You said you prefer comedy or drama?
I mostly do comedy.
Okay.
Yeah, that seems to be my niche.
Have you ever done stand-up?
I haven't, not yet. I've had a few people along the way try to push me in that direction, but I haven't done the stand-up. In my opinion, that's a real art form, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage to do that. And I don't know that I have the guts.
I think stand-up, if you can do stand-up, if one can do stand-up, I think acting's a piece of cake after that.
I agree. Yeah. I have some friends who do stand-up, and it's to do stand-up well is so difficult. In my opinion, it's just one of the most difficult things you can do, and that's why a lot of stand-ups actually are quite good actors.
Oh yeah, most of them are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
While you were talking about that, I was just thinking of ones that have transitioned to film. Rodney Dangerfield comes to mind. Jerry Seinfeld.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So many of those SNL guys, you mentioned SNL, like those guys from the early days, Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy.
They all did stand-up. Yeah.
Brilliant comics who are fantastic actors as well.
Yeah. I think again, stand-up is sort of the ultimate challenge in that regard. Because
I agree.
Because you have to, aside from getting your timing and controlling the stage and all these things, which actors would do, you have the audience play too. You have to be ready for a heckler, and a heckler can make or break you.
Completely. Yeah.
If you don't have the right comeback to take the heckler down, then he won.
Yeah. Yeah, some of these small clubs in New York City, which is where a lot of, or Chicago, where a lot of comics, paid their dues. You can be dealing with some tough crowds.
Oh yeah.
And it takes an amazing amount of grit, and so many comics The ones that make it that we see, we sort of see the polished product. The early days of your comedy can be torture. You bomb, but comics bomb a ton, even the great ones, as they're working out these their acts. And it takes, you got to be unafraid of taking some punches and dusting yourself off and coming back. And when you're a stand-up comic, when I'm an actor, I'm on stage with people. I have help. If something is going awry, I've got people there with me. If you're a stand-up, it's all on your
You're
shoulders.
alone.
It's entirely you.
Yeah.
Incredible courage to do that.
You're alone and naked up there.
Totally.
Basically, yeah. No, you're right, because if you're in a film and you screw up, they can retake it.
Oh yeah.
You can call for a line.
Oh yeah.
If you're stand-up, if you mess up, that's it. You're done.
That's it. No, yeah. There's nothing doing film work after even doing stage, but especially after doing stand-up comedy, doing film is a snap.
Piece of cake.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mike, we got to wrap this up. We are out of time, unfortunately. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Sure. It's mikeanthony.com. Okay.
You want to spell that for people that aren't so spelling good?
Sure. It's MikeAnthony.com, and both of the books are available there, as well as some video clips of the documentary.
Great. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Nice talking to you again, and this time we got to see you. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Douglas. It's always great speaking with you.